The room is small and quiet, the kind of quiet that turns your breathing into weather. A screen glows in your hand. Your thumb moves almost without you. A ritual learned long before sleep. Pastel dresses glide by satin, pearls, matching bows, laughter like glass tapping a rim. They smile in perfect timing, a choreography of belonging. It is beautiful, in the way snow is beautiful when you are unprepared for winter. Each clip feels like an invitation that never says your name. Captions whisper a price list. Be bright enough, thin enough, agreeable enough, and the door will open. For a moment you believe, then the belief sours. You don't stop. You keep scrolling, as if the next clip might return what the last one quietly took. The mirror waits, in the corner, tilted and patient. Between clips you look up and check yourself as if a witness had asked for proof. Hair smoothed, shirt tugged straight, chin angled to hide a softness you were taught to make smaller. You do not know when this began. Perhaps the first day you learned that faces can be graded. Perhaps the first time a door opened for others and not for you. On the screen, a young woman cries softly. The room behind her is the color of meringue. She whispers she did not receive a bid. Her eyes shine with the effort of being dignified. You feel a sting behind your own eyes, an ache that is not only hers. Approval withheld can bruise like a fist without leaving a mark. There are smiles too. A chorus of squeals, gleaming teeth, comments that crown the chosen. Their joy is real. You don't resent it. You only notice what it wakes in you. A small animal pacing the rib cage, afraid of being locked outside while party lights glow like a second sun. It is not jealousy. It is the older fear of being forgotten by the tribe. The mirror keeps its counsel. In its glass, your face is a map with missing legends. You tilt your head. You search for the version of you that might be allowed into a softer world. It is there, almost, if you narrow your eyes and drain your voice of everything that makes it yours. You could practice, you could become fluent in surfaces. Plenty have. I have known rooms where the world closed in until a person could not remember their first dream. In such rooms, it is a victory merely to keep one's inner posture upright. Tonight, your room is not a prison, yet the air tightens, as if walls could inch closer. A question is forming, and questions have weight. You anticipate it with the dread we reserve for honest things. You tell yourself you are only watching, but your breath betrays you. The body does not distinguish between the audition and its rehearsal. Your shoulders hunch. Your stomach learns to expect verdicts. Even the way you hold the phone has become an application. Steady hands, practiced smile at your own reflection between takes. It is not performance you despise. It is the way performance claims your soul while calling itself community. Outside, a car passes, headlights spill across your floor and fade. For an instant, the mirror brightens and you notice dust on the frame, a hairline crack, like a thin river at the corner. You think of how many faces it has contained. Yours at 13 rehearsing apologies. Yours last winter deciding to grow your hair. Yours last week trying on a gentleness someone called too much. The mirror remembers even when you pretend not to. You return to the feed. The algorithm has learned your flinch. It serves it back dressed as hope. Another house tour, another chorus line, another promise that if you decode the ritual, you will not be lonely. Yet loneliness does not answer to codes, it answers to truth. And truth, when it arrives, does not shout. It stands still and asks you to look. In the dark glass, your outline steadies. Without the moving colors, your face is simply a face. Tired, searching, unfinished. The unfinished part matters. It means there is still clay, still wet enough to shape. You lift the phone and for once do not open the app. The silence that enters is not friendly at first. It is the kind that introduces you to yourself. Somewhere inside that quiet, a question trembles, delicate and relentless as a pulse. Will I belong? It is honest. Tonight, do not silence it. Let it ask what it needs to ask. But as you listen, another question rises like a lantern behind the ribs. It does not cancel the first, it deepens it. What am I becoming by the way I seek belonging? And with that, the room waits. The mirror does not judge, it simply returns what looks into it. Outside the window, the city keeps breathing. Inside, you have reached the small threshold where a life quietly chooses itself. The silence after scrolling is not silence at all. It is crowded. Crowded with pastel echoes, laughter that was not yours, eyes that seem to look through you from 1,000 curated screens. The glow of RushTok remains even when the device rests face down, like the afterimage of a camera flash. Your room has returned to darkness, but inside, the feed still plays on. You try to breathe slowly to remember that this is only an app, only a collection of strangers. But your body does not listen. The heart does not distinguish between fiction and fact. It reads rejection in the same language, shallow breaths, a weight pressing under the ribs, the old tribal fear of being left outside the fire's circle. The mirror across the room feels alive now. Earlier, it simply watched. Now it questions. Each time your eyes meet the glass, you feel inspected by yourself. The judgment does not come from a sorority or a screen. It rises from within, sharpened by years of rehearsing for acceptance. You remember when it began. Not RushTok itself, but its seed. The school cafeteria table where you carried a tray too heavy for arms that felt too weak. The night you chose silence instead of admitting you liked a song no one else did. The first time you posted something honest and deleted it because no one cared. Belonging has always worn pastel, but behind its softness hides the steel of exclusion. Now the contradiction gnaws at you. You want to belong. You ache for it with the intensity of thirst, and yet watching yourself want it, you feel sick. The sickness is not shame for the desire itself. The desire is human, carved into marrow. The sickness comes from knowing how easily you would trade parts of yourself to quiet the anxiety. A laugh muted here, a truth disguised there. Each compromise small, almost invisible, until the mirror shows you a face you no longer recognize. You whisper, "If I am this anxious just watching, what am I becoming in the act of wanting?" The room swallows the words, but the mirror does not. Kierkegaard called this trembling angst the dizziness of freedom. It is not a flaw, he wrote, but the cost of possibility. You tremble because you could become many things. The self that bows and bends, or the self that risks being alone. Both doors are open. The dizziness is what it feels like to stand between them. You think of those on the screen. The ones chosen, their joy sharp and sweet as champagne. The ones left out, tears sliding down like they had failed not at a ritual but at life itself. You tell yourself their pain is not yours, yet your body aches with recognition. It is not them you envy or pity. It is the clarity of verdict, the knowing where they stand, in or out. You, here in the quiet, live suspended in the maybe, endlessly judged by a mirror that offers no final word. You scroll again, though you promised you would stop. The algorithm rewards your flinch, serving you more pastel crowns, more trembling voices whispering chosen or discarded. Each video a drop of salt water to a thirsty soul, momentary relief, deeper dehydration. The nausea rises, but you keep drinking. Inside, another fracture deepens. To crave belonging is not weakness, it is ancient, but to beg for it in ways that hollow you out. That is how a soul forgets its outline. The mirror sees this. It does not blink, it does not comfort. It reflects the truth you would rather avoid. That every moment you choose belonging without becoming, you disappear a little more. The contradiction sharpens until it feels unbearable. You long for connection. Yet the very way you chase it erases you, piece by piece. This realization presses down like a stone on your chest. You close your eyes, but the mirror remains inside the eyelids. Its silence grows louder than any algorithm, louder than the party songs and shrieks of joy. You are left with the wound exposed, the ache of wanting, the sickness of self-betrayal, the dizziness of standing at freedom's edge. It is not yet redemption. It is not yet clarity. It is the dark valley between. And in that valley, a sentence hovers, sharp as broken glass. If I keep wanting this way, there will be nothing left of me to belong. The room feels different now. Not lighter, not yet, but heavier in a way that forces honesty. The silence carries all the voices you've heard tonight. Pastel laughter, disappointed whispers, the cries of those who were not chosen. They echo in you until you cannot tell which ones were theirs and which belonged to you. You sit in that echo, hands pressed into the blanket as if to anchor yourself. The mirror waits, unblinking. Then slowly, a memory surfaces. Words you once brushed past, now returning with new weight. When anxiety is rightly understood, it leads us to authenticity. Kierkegaard had written this almost 2 centuries ago, but tonight, it does not sound like philosophy. It sounds like someone whispering across time, holding out a lantern in the dark. You understand now that the trembling you feel, the nausea, the tightness in your chest, the dizzying ache of not belonging, is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you are standing at the edge of choice. Anxiety is not punishment, it is possibility. You rise and approach the mirror. The floor creaks under your weight. You almost expect the glass to recoil, to magnify your flaws, but it does not. Instead, it returns a face you have nearly forgotten, yours. At first, you see what you always see. Tired eyes, a mouth that never quite rests, hair falling imperfectly against your forehead. Yet tonight, there is something else. The unfinished. You are not complete, not polished, not perfected. Unfinished means clay still soft, canvas still open. The dizziness in your chest is not the collapse of self, but the ache of creation. Your eyes fall to the crack in the mirror's corner, a flaw you've overlooked countless times. Tonight it seems alive. The fracture is not beautiful, not elegant, but it tells a story. Imperfection that still reflects, brokenness that still bears truth. You trace it lightly with your fingertip, and suddenly the thought sharpens. Maybe I don't need to erase my cracks to be whole. Maybe my cracks are the only reason authenticity can shine through. The dizziness shifts. It is still there, but less like drowning and more like standing at the edge of a cliff, wind tugging at your sleeves. The horizon open before you. You could leap into conformity, into the safety of being chosen, into the comfort of Pastel approval, but you could also remain trembling and still choose yourself. A realization cuts clear as glass. If I keep chasing their belonging, I will lose myself in the process. The words sting, but they also free. Because once you name the cost, you can no longer pretend it isn't there. You think back to moments you had silenced yourself. The cafeteria where you swallowed your favorite joke. The night you deleted your most honest post because no one liked it. The countless times you tried to soften your laugh, polish your edges, sand down your truth until it fit. Each compromise seemed small, almost invisible. Tonight the mirror gathers them together like broken pieces scattered across the floor. You see the pattern, you see the theft. And for the first time you also see the thief. It was never them, it was you. You were the one erasing yourself for belonging. The mirror does not judge, it simply reflects. And in that reflection, you catch a glimpse, not of judgment, not of failure, but of the possibility of becoming. You breathe differently now. The air has not softened, the night has not grown kinder, and yet your lungs expand with a kind of cautious courage. For once, the silence in the room feels less like absence and more like space. You do not yet know what authenticity will cost. Perhaps friends, perhaps opportunities, perhaps the safety of Pastel approval. But you do know this: losing yourself is the one price you can no longer afford. The mirror holds your gaze. For a moment, you do not see an outsider, a reject, or a candidate in waiting. You see a face still unfinished, still searching, still free, and that is enough. RushTok is not the enemy. It is only a stage where your own drama plays out. The sorority rituals, the coordinated laughter, the tears of the rejected, none of these belong to you. And yet they do. They are mirrors for the same ache that pulses in your own chest, the ache of wanting to be chosen. You sit with this recognition for a long while. At first, it feels disorienting. You had thought your anxiety marked you as weaker, more fragile, somehow less capable than others. But what if it is not weakness? What if it is simply the cost of being human? Kierkegaard insisted that anxiety is not to be erased, but listened to. It is a teacher, though its lessons are rarely gentle. The trembling in your chest is the signal that you stand at freedom's edge. You could collapse into imitation, or you could risk becoming yourself. Both doors are open. The mirror across the room no longer feels like a judge. Its crack gleams softly in the gray light, less like a flaw and more like a reminder. Imperfection can still reflect truth. Perhaps your own cracks are the places where authenticity might shine through. A thought rises. My anxiety is not proof of weakness. It is proof of possibility. This dizziness means I am alive to the fact that choice is here. Your mind drifts to the confessions you've seen online. Pastel smiles overlay captions about burnout. Perfect voices whisper about feeling invisible. Quiet quitting is no longer just a workplace phrase. It has become a spiritual condition. People quit themselves in silence, showing up each day with a mask, while the self behind it slowly fades. And then another thought pierces through. Have I been quietly quitting myself too? Every time you rehearsed a laugh you didn't mean, every time you deleted a post that was too honest, every time you tried to polish your face into someone else's symmetry. This realization does not bring shame, it brings clarity. Anxiety points like a finger to the wound. It says, this matters, this is where you must choose. You walk to the desk and place a hand on the notebook. It feels heavier than its size should allow, as if it holds not just blank pages, but the demand to write something true. You have been postponing this moment, telling yourself there is no time, no point, no one who would care. But the mirror whispers otherwise. Choice does not always announce itself with trumpets. Sometimes it arrives in the smallest acts. To sit without the screen for 10 minutes. To write a line that no one else will ever read. To walk without curating your steps for strangers. Each act a rebellion, not against society, but against your own surrender. The question shifts. It is no longer, will I belong? But what will I become by the way I seek belonging? The words that appear on the page are imperfect, shaky, but they are yours. And with each letter, the truth clarifies. You cannot control who selects you, who applauds, who welcomes you in, but you can control whether you live as a mask or as a face. It is not easy. The world still rewards the pastel smile, the practiced conformity. But you see now that authenticity, though lonelier at first, may be the only belonging that endures. You turn back to the mirror. For the first time, it does not look like a judge. It looks like a witness. It reflects not perfection, not verdict, but presence. The face is tired, cracked, unfinished, but free. And in that freedom, you whisper, not to the crowd, not even to the mirror, but to yourself. Anxiety is not my enemy. It It is the invitation to live as myself. The night has passed, but the question remains. The mirror still stands where it stood. Your phone still waits, patient, holding 1,000 pastel worlds ready to pull you back in. Nothing outside has changed, yet everything inside has shifted. You carry the realization into the daylight like a fragile ember cupped in your hands. The ember is small. You could still drop it, still forget. But if you guard it carefully, it can light even the most ordinary of hours. Authenticity does not announce itself in heroic speeches or flawless transformations. It lives in the texture of small, stubborn choices. It looks like sitting at your desk and leaving your phone face down even when it vibrates with the hunger of attention. The silence that follows is uncomfortable, like an empty stomach at first. But slowly you realize the silence is not absence, it is space. Space to notice yourself. It looks like opening a notebook and writing one line you don't plan to delete, even if it is messy, even if no one else will see it. A fragment of truth that belongs to you alone. In a world that devours words for likes, this line is different. It does not need applause to exist. It looks like walking down the street without framing your steps for strangers. No curated angles, no invisible audience, just the crunch of gravel underfoot, the wind tugging at your jacket, the sky indifferent and vast. You begin to see that these tiny acts are not meaningless. They are rebellions, gentle ones, invisible to most, but powerful enough to reorient your soul. You think of the conversations happening online. Gen Z confessions tucked into TikTok captions. I'm tired of being perfect. Long Reddit threads where strangers admit burnout. Book talk videos of underlined passages about rest, loneliness, authenticity. None of it is coincidence. Behind every trend is a shared question. Is there another way to live besides erasing myself? The world tells you belonging must be bought with edits, smiles, compromises. But the cost of constant belonging is slow disappearance. The mirror shows this clearly. Every time you pretend, you leave a piece of yourself behind. It is not loud, not dramatic, but cumulative. Over months, years, decades, you could forget your original face. This is why the mirror feels gentler now. It no longer asks, "Are you chosen?" It asks, "Are you here?" The question is not whether the crowd will accept you. The question is whether you can bear to look at your own reflection and still recognize yourself. Think of the small places where this applies. In the workplace, when you feel the pull to overperform to prove your worth, authenticity might mean doing your work with integrity, then allowing yourself to rest without guilt. In friendships, when you sense the temptation to mirror someone else's preferences until you no longer know your own. Authenticity might mean admitting what you really love, even if it feels awkward. In solitude, when the silence feels unbearable. Authenticity might mean staying with the silence long enough to hear what your soul has been trying to say. None of these acts will trend. They will not produce viral applause, but they are the ground from which dignity grows, and the stakes could not be higher. If you avoid these small acts, if you keep surrendering pieces of yourself to the hunger for belonging, what will remain? Perhaps you will be accepted, perhaps you will be praised, but in the mirror you will meet a stranger, smiling, polished, celebrated, and hollow. The whisper sharpens. If I don't stop now, what will be left of me that no one else can give back? Authenticity is not a performance, it is a survival strategy. Not dramatic, not glamorous, but deeply human. It is the only way to ensure that when you look in the mirror, you do not just see a reflection, you see yourself. The day is ending, and the room feels almost the same as it did when it began. The phone is still within reach. The mirror is still waiting. The same questions hover in the air. And yet, something inside you has shifted. The trembling has not disappeared, but it has softened into something you can carry without shame. You know now that anxiety is not simply a sickness to silence, it is a signal. It points to the very places where becoming matters most. And when understood rightly, it does not imprison you. It opens the door to authenticity. So tonight, you are given a chance, not to erase all fear, not to finish your story in one gesture, but to begin again with one small act. Turn the mirror around. Not forever, just for tonight. When you do, notice the emptiness it leaves behind. A blank wall, unremarkable, almost bare. Yet in that bare space, something happens. The weight of judgment lifts, even if just slightly. For once, there is no reflection to check, no image to adjust. There is only you, unobserved, unseen, unperformed. Sit in that space for a few breaths. Let the silence grow large enough to hear yourself think. And then whisper the question aloud softly enough that only you will hear it. What am I becoming in? The way I seek belonging? Do not rush to answer. The question is not a test. It is a companion. Perhaps the truest one you have had in some time. Each night you dare to ask it, you invite yourself back into your own life. Maybe tonight your small act will be to write one honest sentence before sleep. Perhaps tomorrow you will walk without rehearsing, or rest without apology, or tell a friend the truth instead of what is easy. These are not grand victories, but they are anchors. They are how a soul resists erasure. The mirror will still be there tomorrow. Its crack will still shine faintly in the light. Its silence will still wait. But after tonight, when you turn it back, perhaps it will not accuse. Perhaps it will feel less like a judge and more like a witness, reminding you that unfinished is not failure. Unfinished means freedom. Remember this. Belonging that costs your becoming is not belonging at all. The world may still demand your masks, but you are free to choose when to wear them and when to set them down. So as the night closes, keep one promise to yourself. Do not quit yourself quietly. Do not surrender piece by piece until nothing remains. Keep one ember alive. One act of authenticity. One breath of freedom. If I don't change, what will I lose that no one can give back?